Hey guys, how's it going? It's another really hot evening here in Osaka, Japan. Very humid. Actually, it's about, let me see, 2:30 a.m. in the morning right now. And okay, this question is from Curtis Japan, and he says, "Hey Ryan, thank you for your videos. Once you moved to Japan, how long did it take you before you could have daily conversations with people? I currently live in Japan, and I feel like I'm not progressing, and I'm studying very hard." Alright, Curtis, well, I remember after living in Japan for 6 months, I would call up people and I'd want to meet them and make plans with them, like meet them at a certain place, and I really struggled with that. That was just very difficult for me. Just to say basic things like, I want to meet you at this place at 6 p.m., or like, let's go have dinner or something like that. I mean, I could say those things, but like to string them together and make the conversation flow, and like I didn't know how to end conversations, just it was very tough putting it all together. Still, everything in my mind was really scattered, and that was at 6 months. And then after 9 months, I remember I went to a Japanese language school full time, and I was paying like $600 a month to go to school full time. I was going to school probably 8 hours a day. Now, before that, I had been studying on my own. Every morning I would study from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I would mostly study kanji and a little bit of reading, but I was just memorizing kanji. I thought it was really important to learn how to read Japanese in order to learn how to speak Japanese. And I still believe that. Because now when I hear new words, it's like bam, I can instantly visualize the kanji, and that really helps me memorize new words. I remember when I first came to Japan and I was watching TV or listening to people's conversations in Japanese, it just sounded like blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, and it sounded like all these kaki keko mami mume. I just feel like it was a bunch of sounds that's mixed together. It didn't make any sense to me. Whereas now when I hear it, I understand it almost 100%. So for school, in retrospect, it was probably good practice, but I believe now that you can learn a language without having to go to a language school. If you really immerse yourself, and if you study how to study a language, you can learn it by yourself without having to go to school. And if you just engage people who speak that language as a native language, and you ask questions, like you learn how to ask questions in that language. Like in Japanese, you should learn how to ask important questions like, how do you say this in Japanese? Or how do you pronounce this in Japanese? Or um, like, is this word a adjective? Like, you should know the word adjective in Japanese, which is keiyoshi, by the way. Or what else? Like, am I saying this right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you should learn how to say, you should learn how to ask questions about how to speak Japanese in Japanese. What else? So that's in 9 months. I'm going to school full time. And then I think about after 3 years, I was kind of like at the level where I could have really crappy beginnerish level conversations. I mean, it all depends on what you consider a conversation. Now, if you're talking about just small talk, like where are you from? Because okay, that's another thing. When you're here in Japan, you get asked a lot the same freaking questions. The same questions. Where are you from? How long have you lived in Japan? What do you do? How long are you going to stay in Japan? Do you like Japan? What's your favorite thing about Japan? You're going to get asked these questions every frickin' day. So, I recommend you learn how to answer those questions. And what helps is you'll notice is when you answer those questions over and over again, you just remember the answers. Like, you start remembering the Japanese, and it just flows out your mouth real smoothly because you've said it 100 times. But it's good practice. And that's another thing. It's like when you learn new grammar patterns, new ways to say things, those things don't really stick in your head until you've had to say them many, many times. Whereas if you only say something or memorize something one time, you're likely to forget it. I think your brain prioritizes things that you need to know the most in order to survive. And I'm thinking after about 5 years is when I finally felt like I was at the cusp of being able to have conversations in Japanese, like about most things in general. Now, when it came down to having, and still this is true, having conversations about very specific things. Uh, for example, the other night I was talking to a lady who lives here in the neighborhood. I asked her why she moved out of her last apartment, and she started talking about the spirit world. And she was using all these words about spirits and ghosts and stuff like that. And I knew what she was talking about, but she was using a lot of words that I didn't know. So I had to keep on asking her, what does that word mean? What does this word mean? What kanji does that word have in it? I was asking her these questions because I don't talk about that stuff every day. I don't talk about the spirit world every day. So, and then when I hear new words, I'll take notes. I put it into my Anki word file, and I'll study it and I'll memorize it. So I guess if I want to give you a quick answer, sorry this video's gone on so long, I would say 5 years, okay? And that's for somebody of like average intelligence like me, who's studying probably about 4 hours a day, book study, and then, speaking Japanese with Japanese friends and stuff. I think a lot of people are probably going to leave comments. Well, not that a lot of people watch these videos yet, but probably a lot of people will leave comments where they'll be like, oh yeah, I learned Japanese in a year. Whatever. I mean, I think a lot of people are full of shit. Japanese is really hard, and it does actually take a long time to learn it. There was one guy I met, he was from Germany, he was 17 years old. He studied Japanese in his high school, and when I met him, I had been living in Japan for about 12 years, and he spoke almost at my level, pretty close to my level, and it was very humbling for me. I don't know how he got that good. I asked him if he went to like a gifted school or something, and he also spoke English. Like, we communicated in English, but his native language was German. I don't know. That was one freak example. Other than him, most people are just like kind of on my level, where it's taken them about 5 years to get pretty fluent. Mountain Man Dave, I made a video about him. He was living in the mountains and Roko Mountains in Kobe. He was really good too. He only lived in Japan for a year, and then the last time he was here, it had been like 10 years since he had been in Japan. Now, I don't know how much he studied every day, but I heard him speaking Japanese. He was able to have conversations too. So, I mean, he came to Japan probably 10 years ago. He lived here for a year, but then he was in America for the past 10 years, not speaking Japanese every day. And I don't know how much he studied, but yeah, he was pretty good. So my answer is 5 years. At 3 years, you're gonna be like, you're gonna be able to have conversations, but you're gonna sound stupid. No offense. And then at 5 years, you're still gonna sound stupid, but you're gonna start getting better. So that's a good question. And then for this video, what I'll do is, don't leave comments about how to say something, but if you want to start discussions on your experiences with studying Japanese, or anything about learning a language, learning Japanese, then I'll choose the next video that has the most thumbs up, and I think that'll be fun to talk about.